They laughed at the version of you that cried in silence. They ignored the version of you that stayed awake at 3 a.m. asking heaven, "Why is nothing changing?" They underestimated the version of you that kept losing, kept failing, kept breaking, yet somehow kept getting back up. But what they do not understand is that the person you are becoming right now is not normal anymore. You didn't survive everything by accident. You were being rebuilt. And tonight, you are about to discover exactly who you will soon become. Not who people said you are. Not who your past tried to turn you into. But the version of you that destiny has been secretly preparing behind every betrayal, every delay, every closed door, and every painful season you thought was destroying you. Because there is a transformation happening inside you that very few people can recognize while it is still forming. And once it fully awakens, your life will never look the same again. Stay with me carefully, because one sentence in this message is going to feel like it was sent directly for you. And when it hits you, everything will begin to make sense. There is a reason you clicked this. There is a reason your spirit refused to scroll away. And before this video ends, you will understand why the pain had to happen, why the waiting had to happen, and why the next version of you is going to shock everyone who ever doubted you, including yourself. Listen closely. The person you are becoming is someone who no longer begs for validation. Right now, maybe you still care too much about who leaves, who ignores you, who chooses someone else over you, who forgets your worth. But the future version of you? They don't chase. They don't force. They don't shrink themselves to fit into places they were never meant to stay. Because the person you are becoming finally understands something powerful. Not everyone was sent to walk with you forever. Some people were assignments. Some people were lessons. Some people were only there to reveal how strong you really are. And once you realize that, you stop crying over exits that heaven allowed on purpose. You stop begging doors to open. You stop explaining your value to blind people. Because the new version of you walks differently, calmer, stronger, untouchable. And that transformation is already beginning. You can feel it, can't you? The things that used to break you don't hit the same anymore. The opinions that once controlled you are starting to lose power. The loneliness that once terrified you is slowly becoming peace. That's not depression. That's evolution. You are outgrowing an old identity. And the process feels lonely because your spirit is separating from everything that can no longer go where you're headed. This next part is important. The person you will soon become is dangerous to limitations. Because after everything you survived, fear is losing control over you. Think about it. You have already survived nights you thought would destroy you. You have already cried until your chest hurt. You have already walked through confusion so deep you didn't even recognize yourself. Yet somehow, you are still here, breathing, trying again, still searching for purpose. That means something. Weak people do not survive what you survived. There is a hidden strength inside you that even you haven't fully seen yet. And soon, life is going to force it out of you completely. The future version of you is not weak. That person is focused, disciplined, protected, emotionally intelligent, spiritually aware, and impossible to manipulate. Do you know why certain people suddenly started acting strange around you? Why some connections began fading? Why you started feeling disconnected from environments that once felt comfortable? Because your energy is changing. And when your energy changes, everything misaligned begins to fall away. People can sense when you are becoming harder to control. That's why some people pull away right before your breakthrough. Not because you are losing, but because you are transforming. Hear this carefully. Caterpillars lose their entire old form before becoming something capable of flight. And right now, your old identity is collapsing. That version of you that tolerated disrespect is dying. That version of you that constantly doubted yourself is dying. That version of you that settled for less because you feared loneliness is dying. And the new version? The new version of you is terrifyingly powerful, because they finally know who they are. Most people never become who they were meant to be because they keep returning to environments that destroy them. But you? You're beginning to wake up. You're beginning to notice patterns. You're beginning to recognize fake love faster. You're beginning to value peace more than attention. And that changes everything. The future version of you no longer needs to prove anything. Imagine waking up one day and no longer feeling desperate for approval. Imagine looking in the mirror and finally recognizing your power. Imagine becoming so mentally strong that chaos around you no longer controls your emotions. That is who you are becoming. And the scary part? Most people around you still think you are the old version. They have no idea what is forming in silence. They remember your broken phase. They remember your confused phase. They remember when you tolerated nonsense. But they have not met the person you are becoming now. And when they finally do, they will not know how to handle you. Because healed people move differently. Focused people move differently. People chosen for greater things move differently. The future version of you does not panic when things fall apart. They understand that sometimes destruction is necessary before elevation. You see, one of the biggest signs you are transforming is that your old life starts feeling uncomfortable. You can't fake happiness anymore. You can't tolerate fake conversations anymore. You can't keep shrinking yourself anymore. Because your soul knows something your mind is still trying to understand. You were never meant to stay small. And every painful experience was preparing you to become someone unrecognizable. Listen to this carefully. One day, the same people who ignored you will watch your growth in silence. The same people who doubted your future will secretly study your confidence. The same people who underestimated your value will wonder how you became so powerful. Not because you became arrogant, but because pain introduced you to your true self. Most transformations do not happen loudly. Real transformation happens in silence, in lonely nights, in painful lessons, in moments where nobody claps for you. That is where warriors are built. And you have been in training this entire time. You thought you were being punished, but you were being prepared. Prepared to handle bigger opportunities. Prepared to carry greater responsibilities. Prepared to become someone who no longer collapses under pressure. There is a future version of you that already exists spiritually. A version of you filled with confidence, wisdom, clarity, peace, discipline, and abundance. And every challenge you face right now is pulling you closer to that identity. This is why your life feels strange lately. Part of you is dying, and another part is awakening. That's why you feel emotional one moment and powerful the next. That's why isolation has become necessary. That's why certain conversations drain you instantly now. Your spirit is rejecting what no longer matches your future. You are not crazy. You are shifting. And once this transformation finishes, you will never settle for less again. The future version of you no longer fears being alone. Because they discovered something life-changing. Peace is more valuable than fake connection. Read that again in your spirit. Peace is more valuable than fake connection. The new version of you would rather walk alone than stay attached to people who slowly destroy your energy. That's growth. That's maturity. That's power. And most people never reach that level. But you are getting there. Slowly, painfully, powerfully. The person you are becoming also understands the value of silence. Not every battle deserves your reaction anymore. Not every insult deserves your energy. Not every misunderstanding deserves explanation. The future version of you becomes selective. Selective with time. Selective with access. Selective with emotions. Because they finally understand that energy is currency. And where attention goes, life follows. This next part may shock you. Some of the hardest moments in your life were actually separating you from a weaker destiny. If certain people stayed, you would have remained distracted. If certain doors opened earlier, you would have destroyed yourself before you were mature enough to handle success. If everything happened when you wanted, you would never become who you are becoming now. That delay saved you. That heartbreak redirected you. That betrayal awakened you. And one day you will look back and thank heaven for what did not work. Because the person you are becoming needed pressure. Diamonds are not created in comfort. And neither are legends. The future version of you becomes unstoppable because they stop depending on motivation. They become disciplined. Even when tired. Even when emotional. Even when nobody supports them. That is the level you are approaching. And once you reach it, your entire reality changes. Because life responds differently when a person fully steps into their power. Opportunities appear. Clarity appears. Confidence appears. The right people appear. Not because of luck, but because your energy finally aligns with your purpose. You were never meant to remain the person who doubted themselves every day. You were never meant to spend your life begging for love from emotionally unavailable people. You were never meant to stay trapped in survival mode forever. Something greater is calling you. And deep down, you already feel it. That restless feeling inside you. That hunger for more. That sense that your current reality cannot be your final destination. That is not imagination. That is destiny pulling on your spirit. And the reason this message feels personal is because your transformation has already started. You can't return to the old version anymore. Even if you tried. You've seen too much. Felt too much. Learned too much. The old version of you is fading. And the new version? The new version is fearless. Not because life became easy, but because suffering taught them strength. The future version of you stops apologizing for existing. Stops dimming their light. Stops abandoning themselves to keep others comfortable. And when that fully happens, everything changes. Relationships change. Habits change. Standards change. Your entire reality shifts. Because once a person realizes their worth, they become impossible to control. And maybe that's why your life had to become so uncomfortable recently. Maybe comfort was the enemy of your evolution. Maybe the pressure was activating something hidden inside you. Maybe every painful chapter was forcing you to meet your real self. Because the truth is, you were never ordinary. Ordinary people do not survive repeated heartbreak and still keep loving. Ordinary people do not keep dreaming after disappointment. Ordinary people do not rise after being emotionally destroyed. There is something rare about your spirit. And soon, the world is going to see it too. But first, you must fully believe it yourself. You must stop speaking to yourself like a defeated person. You must stop identifying with your lowest moments. You must stop acting like your current struggle is your final identity. It is not. This is a temporary season. Transformation always looks messy before it becomes beautiful. Remember that. A seed looks buried before it becomes a forest. And maybe right now you feel buried, forgotten, invisible. But what if this entire season was actually preparation for elevation? What if heaven has been building you in private? What if the reason nothing made sense before is because you were becoming someone completely different? Someone stronger, someone wiser, someone unstoppable. This is who you will soon become. A person who no longer fears rejection because they know their value. A person who no longer collapses under pressure because pain trained them. A person who no longer settles for crumbs because they finally understand their worth. A person who walks into rooms with calm power instead of insecurity. A person who protects their peace like treasure. A person who finally becomes everything life tried to destroy. And when that day fully arrives, you will look back at this version of yourself with tears in your eyes, not because of sadness, but because you survived the transformation, you survived becoming, and very soon, the world will meet the version of you that pain created, discipline sharpened, and destiny chose. But wait. Because there is something even deeper happening to you right now that most people will never understand. You are entering a season where your entire identity is being rewritten, not improved, rewritten. And that is why life has felt so uncomfortable lately. Because the universe does not upgrade people gently. It breaks illusions first. It destroys attachments first. It exposes fake love first. Before elevation comes separation, and before power comes pressure. You keep wondering why certain things suddenly stopped working, why certain people became distant, why your heart no longer feels connected to the things that once excited you. It's because your spirit already knows what your mind is still trying to catch up with. You are outgrowing your old reality. And the dangerous thing about growth is that it forces you to leave behind versions of yourself that once felt safe. The future version of you cannot think like the old version, cannot tolerate what the old version tolerated, cannot remain small just to make insecure people comfortable. That version of you is disappearing now, and honestly, that scares some people. Because weak people become uncomfortable when they see someone transforming into strength. Especially when they benefited from your insecurity. Listen carefully. Some people loved you only when you were broken, only when you doubted yourself, only when you stayed beneath your potential. But the moment you started healing, the moment you started valuing yourself, the moment you stopped begging for attention, their energy changed. Why? Because your growth removed their control. And this is where your life truly begins to change. The future version of you stops confusing attention with love. That alone will save your entire life. Not everyone who talks to you cares about you. Not everyone who compliments you supports you. Not everyone who stays around you deserves access to your soul. The new version of you learns discernment. You start reading energy instead of words. You start noticing intentions instead of performances. You start trusting peace instead of temporary excitement. And suddenly, your entire world changes. Because when your standards rise, your circle changes automatically. The future version of you becomes extremely difficult to deceive. Not because they became cold, but because pain taught them pattern recognition. You start noticing manipulation faster, fake loyalty faster, hidden jealousy faster, and instead of arguing, you quietly detach. That's power. Real power is silent, and silence terrifies people who expected constant access to your energy. One day, someone who underestimated you is going to look at your life and feel confused. Because they expected you to stay weak. They expected the heartbreak to destroy you. They expected the rejection to break your confidence forever. But instead, it activated you. And that is what nobody saw coming. Pain transformed you into someone sharper, smarter, calmer, more dangerous. Not dangerous in anger, dangerous in awareness. Because once a person fully sees through illusions, they can never be controlled the same way again. This next part may be the most important thing you hear tonight. The person you are becoming is deeply protected, and I need you to understand what that means. Every delay was not punishment. Some delays protected you from environments that would have destroyed your future. Some closed doors protected your peace. Some heartbreaks protected your destiny. And someday you will thank life for removing people you begged to keep. Right now you may not understand it. Right now the pain still feels personal. But one day, you will realize that every loss was repositioning you. Every betrayal was revealing hidden truth. Every lonely season was teaching self-respect. And the future version of you carries that wisdom everywhere. You become harder to manipulate because you finally stop abandoning yourself. That changes everything. Because most suffering begins the moment people betray themselves trying to keep others happy. But the person you are becoming? They stop sacrificing inner peace for external approval. And once that shift happens, your entire energy changes. You become calmer, clearer, more magnetic. You stop trying to force outcomes. You stop obsessing over who leaves. You stop fearing endings. Because you finally understand something powerful. What is truly meant for you will never require self-destruction to keep. Read that slowly inside your spirit. What is truly meant for you will never require self-destruction to keep. The future version of you finally understands boundaries, and boundaries will save your life. You stop saying yes when your soul says no. You stop entertaining people who drain you. You stop shrinking your dreams to fit small-minded environments. And suddenly, everything begins changing faster. You attract different conversations, different opportunities, different people. Because you are no longer vibrating at the same frequency as your old life. You are becoming someone entirely new. This is why your intuition has become stronger lately. You can feel energy faster now. You can sense dishonesty faster now. You notice hidden tension in rooms faster now. That is not random. Suffering sharpened your awareness. Pain opened your eyes. And the future version of you trusts intuition more than appearances. That wisdom is priceless. Because the world is full of people wearing masks. But healed people see beyond masks. And once you learn to see clearly, you stop falling for illusions. This next revelation might change the way you see your entire life. Some of the people you lost were connected to the old version of you, not the future version. That means they were only assigned to a temporary chapter. And the reason the connection ended is because your destiny outgrew the relationship. Not every connection is meant to survive your transformation. And that's okay, because elevation often requires separation. You cannot become your highest self while remaining attached to everything that belongs to your lowest season. The future version of you understands that deeply. So instead of chasing people, you start choosing peace. Instead of begging for clarity, you trust actions. Instead of fearing solitude, you begin mastering yourself in silence. That is when true power appears. Most people are terrified of silence because silence reveals truth. But the future version of you no longer runs from truth. They face it. Even when painful, especially when painful, because they understand that truth liberates, illusions imprison, and your spirit is becoming too awakened to keep living inside illusions anymore. Something else is changing inside you too. You are becoming emotionally stronger, not emotionally numb. Stronger. There is a difference. The old version of you reacted instantly, panicked instantly, overthought instantly, but the new version? They pause, observe, discern. Because emotional control is one of the highest forms of power, and life has been training you for it. Every difficult situation was teaching you emotional mastery. Every disappointment was teaching you resilience. Every betrayal was teaching you discernment. Nothing was wasted. Even your darkest nights carried lessons that will protect your future. One day, you will realize that your suffering gave you gifts ordinary comfort never could: strength, wisdom, awareness, self-respect, discipline, vision, and the future version of you uses all of it. That person no longer fears failure, because they understand failure is often redirection. That person no longer fears loneliness, because they discovered themselves there. That person no longer fears endings, because endings introduce them to new beginnings. Do you understand how powerful that is? The person you are becoming is emotionally free, free from constant validation, free from desperation, free from fear of abandonment, and people can feel that energy instantly. Because emotionally free people radiate differently. They no longer beg, no longer chase, no longer force. They attract, naturally, quietly, powerfully, and soon, that will be you completely. But first, life had to break your attachment to who you used to be. That's why the transformation hurt. Because becoming powerful requires releasing identities built from fear. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of being alone, fear of not being enough. But the future version of you has already learned the truth. You were always enough. You just spent too much time around people who benefited from your self-doubt. That ends now. The new version of you walks with certainty, not arrogance. Certainty. There's a difference. Arrogance screams for attention. Certainty moves in silence. And silence is exactly where your next level is forming, while everyone else is distracted. You are evolving, while others chase validation. You are building inner power, while others perform for approval. You are becoming authentic, and authenticity is rare. That is why your future presence will feel different. People will not always understand you, but they will feel you. Because real transformation changes energy before it changes circumstances. And your energy is already shifting. The future version of you also becomes deeply disciplined. You begin realizing that your habits are creating your destiny. Your routines are shaping your future. Your mindset is influencing your reality. So you become intentional. Intentional with thoughts. Intentional with time. Intentional with energy. Because you finally understand that your life reflects what you repeatedly tolerate. And once you stop tolerating chaos, peace begins entering your life naturally. This next season of your life will require courage. Because the universe is preparing to remove distractions from your path. Some people will misunderstand you. Some people will call you distant. Some people will say you changed. And they will be right. You did change. You had to. Because the old version of you was surviving. The new version is about to thrive. And thriving requires a completely different mindset. The person you are becoming is no longer afraid to outgrow people. No longer afraid to protect peace. No longer afraid to choose themselves. That level of self-respect changes destiny. And once you fully embody it, your life will begin moving in ways you never imagined. You are not becoming colder. You are becoming clearer. You are not becoming heartless. You are becoming wiser. You are not losing yourself. You are finally finding yourself. And when this transformation is complete, you will no longer recognize the insecure person you used to be, because the future version of you, that person walks with quiet power, quiet confidence, quiet discipline, quiet wisdom, and the most shocking part? They were inside you the entire time. Waiting for pain